Good evening, Moss-Nuckols foxes. It is time again for a bedtime story with Principal Roane. Do you remember my favorite bear, Dallas? He's going to join us tonight. And the story that I'm going to read is a book called Neville. And Neville is written by Norton Juster, and it is illustrated by G. Brian Karras. So that means Brian Karras is the person who drew the pictures for the story. So let's see what's happening with Neville. Let me sit Dallas to the side. Is everybody comfortable? Here we go. Neville. The big gray van pulled away from the curb, moved slowly down the street, and disappeared around the corner. Now it was quiet, and there he was where he really didn't want to be. Nobody had asked him about moving. They just told him. "You'll love it," they said. That's what they always said when they knew he wouldn't love something. So now he had a new house where he'd never feel at home, and a new school where nobody knew him. "Now, class, here is the new boy I told you about," he imagined the teacher saying. "He comes from the South Pole, and you can all make fun of him as much as you want." And of course, there were no friends. That was the worst part. No friends. Now, of course, we know no teacher would ever tell the students to make fun of him. But that's what he was thinking. The boy sat quite still on the front steps. His mother was standing just inside the doorway. "I know it's hard," she said in her soft mother's voice. "Just give it a chance. I think everything is going to be fine." He didn't look up. She came down the 4 steps and sat next to him. "Maybe you'd like to take a little walk down the block. You might even meet someone." "Yeah, sure," he mumbled, like you can make new friends just by walking down the block. But there wasn't much else to do, so he pulled himself up to his feet and slowly he shuffled away. So there he is sitting on the step with his mom, and there he is slowly deciding to walk away. "Don't go too far," his mother cautioned. "Yeah, sure." "Watch out for the cars if you cross." "Yeah, sure." "Come back before it gets dark." "Yeah, sure." So there he is walking, his mom waving. So he's off. He moved along, looking at the houses without much interest. When he had almost reached the end of the block, he stopped and stood perfectly still for a moment, as if he wasn't sure what he was going to do. Then he turned around slowly, put his head back, took a deep breath, and called out, "Neville!" Nothing happened. He cupped both hands around his mouth, and now he shouted, "Neville!" So there he is shouting, "Neville." I wonder what's going to happen. "He probably can't hear you. You have to shout louder," came a voice from close by. A boy just about his size was standing right next to him. A little startled, he shouted again even louder, "Neville!" "No, no, no, still not good. Let's try it together." They both shouted as loud as they could, but not very together. "Neville, Neville!" So there they are, shouting, Neville. "That doesn't sound right," said a serious girl who had walked over from the other side of the street. "You have to do it exactly at the same time, or no one will understand you. Here, watch me." She raised her arm, counted to 3, brought them down like a little conductor. They all shouted together at exactly the same time, "Neville!" "Excellent," said the girl, smiling brightly. So look how big Neville is when they all shouted together. There was still no reply, but more children came trotting up from every direction. It was quite a crowd, and some started shouting before they even got to the group, "Neville, Neville, Neville!" You can see all of the people, all of the kids shouting. It was difficult for them to keep together, especially when several dogs joined in howling, but everyone enjoyed trying. When they stopped to catch their breath, one of the children said, "Hey, I don't know anyone named Neville who lives around here. Is he new?" "I guess so," the boy said uncertainly. "Everyone has to be new sometimes, don't they?" That sounded reasonable. They all nodded. "Are you a friend of his?" they asked. "His best friend, I guess," said the boy. One of the girls said softly, "If Neville likes you so much, you must be special." "Well, I don't know, maybe a little," he had to admit. So there they are, trying to figure out who Neville is. Must be a friend of the new boy. Now they gathered around, and their questions came from all sides. Everyone wanted to know more about Neville. What's Neville like? Does he play ball? When did he move here? Is he smart? Will he come to sleepovers? Does he have brothers or pets? Is he funny? Does he like to read? Is he nice? I hope he doesn't push. The boy tried to answer the questions as best he could, and everyone seemed very excited to learn more. "I like Neville already," someone cried out. So there they are with all of their questions, trying to figure out who Neville is. I can't wait to meet this Neville. "Hey," one of the kids said, "why don't we try the next block? And if we find him, we can come back for you." A group of kids ran off, and the others stayed to help with the shouting right there. Some windows opened, and a few grown-ups looked out to see what the commotion was about, but still no Neville. "I think I have to go," said one of the girls after a while, "or my mother will get all bothered." "I guess I have to go too," the boy said quietly. "Can we come back tomorrow and help some more?" the kids asked. "Will you come? Are you sure? You promise?" "Sure, if you want," he agreed, and they all began to walk and skip away. So everybody's going home. For a few seconds, the boy stood quietly watching and listening to what they were saying. "I hope we find Neville. Even if we don't, I like his friend a lot. Maybe better. Hey, what was his name? Oh, we'll have to ask him tomorrow." So everyone was so busy looking for Neville, nobody asked the new boy what his name was. The boy turned and started back towards his new house. The sun was getting low and the shadows long, and as he got close, he looked up at the house. Not so bad, he had to admit. He went up the steps 2 at a time. The boy had his dinner right away. Nothing in the house was fixed up yet, but it didn't bother him. He washed, got into his pajamas, and dove into bed. His mom came to tuck him in. Long day, she sighed as she bent to kiss him goodnight. I hope you'll like it here. She turned off the light and walked toward the door. So it's time for bed. There's his mom kissing him goodnight and tucking him in. Oh my goodness, you won't believe what happens on the last page. Good night, Neville. Pleasant dreams, she whispered. Good night, Mom, he whispered back. And in a moment, he was asleep. Did you all figure that out? So the new little boy was Neville all along. That's the end of Neville. So he was new, trying to make new friends. So I think he made a lot of friends. And he turned out to be Neville in the end. Well, good night, foxes. I hope you enjoyed the story.